welcome to our event. If you can hear us and see us, please let us know in the comments. We'll just wait till a few more viewers come in before we get started. We're going to kick off at about 5:40, I'd say.
What was our first speaker?
Yeah, there's no one watching right now, so hopefully that goes up. Right, we've got one viewer. So hi, if you just tuned in now, welcome to our event. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes for some more people to tune in, and then we'll get started. So we've got a great night lined up. We've got some fabulous guest speakers. We can't wait to get talking to them and learn some more knowledge and different industry topics.
Remember, if you have any questions for any of our guest speakers, please write them in our comments and our team will go through them and put them out for the questions and answer time.
And if there's any technical problems, if you're having trouble in hearing us or seeing us, please let us know. Just pop it in the comment box. Just leave it a couple more minutes, do you think?
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
We've got some great guest speakers ready to help you guys with some tips and tricks.
And we've got some great entertainment as well. So excited to show you all. Just give it a couple more minutes and then we'll kick off with the first guest speaker. Probably should start with an intro to what it's about. Yeah. It's so funny when you're watching the minutes, isn't it? You're like,
they go so slow. Yeah. Okay, so hi to everyone who has just joined us. This is Getting to the Front of Stage. We are the co-founders of Front of Stage. I'm Becky and this is Sammy, and we will be the host for the evening.
We thought we'd start with giving a little introduction to ourselves. So like she said, I'm Sammy. I'm an event management graduate. I graduated in 2019 from Manchester Metropolitan University. I love events, I love everything about them. I'm super passionate about the industry. I've had a lot of hospitality experience and I'm currently an enrichment coordinator at MMU.
I also graduated in 2019 from the University of Salford with a degree in broadcast journalism. I find journalism enables me to have a voice for other people. I now currently work for an organisation called DANC, which is Disabled Artists Networking Community, which helps to find solutions for problems disabled people face within the industry.
So we are sisters, if you haven't guessed already, but we're pretty much more like twins, I'd say. We set up Front of Stage together, which is an event and entertainment brand. We really pride ourselves as an organisation to be a helping hand for both the event and the music industry. Our dad's been in the entertainment industry for years, which is really where we got the idea from and the name from, I'd say.
Yeah, so we've always had a huge passion for music, especially live music. Like, I think we've gone to so many live music gigs, I don't think we could even begin to count.
A lot.
Yeah. So during these uncertain times, we've wanted to give back to the industry, which we love so much. So we've been offering free services to artists. So these services are networking opportunities, helping to promote them and their music, finding opportunities for them to perform at, whether virtual or not, and also hosting our own opportunities.
Such as our YouTube channel, Get in Conversation with Front of Stage. We have Q&As with new and aspiring artists to really get to know them on a deeper level. We have some fun games involved with it and performances. And we also have industry talks with different professionals to gain tips and tricks on different topics to really help you guys out.
Yes, so we are having a website launch soon where all the information we've just said you'll be able to find in one place. But until then, please do check out our social medias for any updates and for further information on how we can help each other.
Yeah, what enough about what I'll say. Shall we get started with the event? So each guest speaker's got 30 minutes. We're going to ask them a few questions, and then we've got 20 minutes spare for any questions you guys might have. So please just pop them in the comment box if you have any inquiries, any questions you want to ask, and our team's going to sort them out.
Yes, so our first guest speaker of the night is Lea Ormsby, also known to us as Uncle Lee, as is Sammy's godfather.
Yes, I literally remember we used to live with Uncle Lee at our parents' pub. I remember the back room. He used to be playing piano all the time.
Yeah, I think that piano is where he wrote some of the songs for Paradise Lost musical. He's also been an actor in Emmerdale, has performed in some huge musical such as Disney's Lion King, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard, and recently the phenomenon Les Miserables.
And he's been keeping all our spirits lifted and keeping us all entertained during lockdown with regular live streaming events. So we're going to talk to him and find out a little bit more, get a bit of advice on which platform to use, what technology to use, and really diving deep into live streaming. So shall we get him on?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Lee.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Great.
How are you doing?
Yes, very well. Thank you very much. I'm in a hotel room in Bristol, so I do apologise for the murky lighting. But I'm not at my desk in London. I'm actually away this weekend, so I'm coming to you all from a hotel room here in Bristol.
That's fine. We'd never know.
Working on the go. So, do you want to just start off by giving a little bit of background into your musical life?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my name's Lea Ormsby. I've been in the entertainment industry for 38 years. I was a child actor. So I started in film, and I've done television over the years, and obviously musical theatre is my big passion. I was a child actor, so it progressed from there. Got my equity card, and just keep working. Just happily working. I'm also a musician as well, so I play piano and I write, I compose. So if I'm not acting, I'm playing. I regularly play in cabaret in London, central London, several of the big piano bars, entertainment bars in London, as well as performing in bands around the world. I go over to Switzerland quite regularly and things like that. So, yeah. And then obviously lockdown came, and as an artist, I had to do something. So switched to live streaming. So live streaming has been the way forward in the last sort of 6 months or so.
Perfect. So can you tell us a little bit about the live streaming events that you've been putting on?
Yeah, okay. Well, it started, bizarrely, as a one-off because my birthday was in April. My housemates had been isolating. So they had left the house. I live with two other musicians, and they both left. So I was on my own, and it was my birthday coming up. And I didn't want to spend it on my own. So a lot of my friends are performing acts, artists in Benidorm, where obviously their livelihoods all revolve around tribute shows, musician shows, and obviously Spain was completely locked down and their entire livelihoods were wiped out. So they had all been live streaming for some time before anybody had started doing it really properly in the UK, and my friend suggested going live on my birthday. So I'd always kicked against that, really. I never really looked into it as much as good as it is. And I was persuaded to go live, and I did my first one. It was only supposed to be one, and then fell in love with it, and I've been doing them regularly ever since. So it's been amazing for me in lockdown personally, because simply as a creative artist, as a musician, as a lot of people will relate, music is an art, and if you can't paint, then you know, an artist without his tools is a very lonely man indeed. So it was a way of carrying on the musical expression without having to do it in a theatre or in a bar, which obviously we were all locked down. So it was a question of utilising what I had in terms of using backing tracks, making backing tracks if I didn't have them, and then going live and hitting that button. And then it was obviously became a thing where it sort of focused your mind. Lockdown was very difficult for a lot of people. It was difficult for myself. I was isolating alone. And also I had COVID-19. I was diagnosed with it. I was very, very sick with it, and later down the line diagnosed with the positive antibodies test later down the line. So lockdown was quite difficult. So this was a great way of musical release, really. And it sort of transpired from there. And other people in lockdown that started watching my streams were very complimentary. They said it was helping them during the lockdown. So I've carried on doing them. Housemates are back at the moment, so it's a lot more difficult, but I'm still doing them regularly.
So obviously, like, technologies are advancing all the time, and there's so many tools out there for people to use. Which ones have you found yourself favouring, and what streaming sites and stuff do you use?
Well, it's an interesting one. There are so many platforms, because live streaming is still in the relatively early stages. I mean, even 2018, there were 2 million people statistically that were live streaming on a regular basis, which is not an awful lot of people. So it's still quite an unsaturated platform. But that's not to say that there aren't multiple choices. Now, I was using Facebook Live to begin with, And I am a little bit particular about my sound. I like really good sound. You can on Facebook just click live and record straight from your phone. But I did some investigating, and also my friend and singer, co-singer, the opera guy, Ryan Wallace, has been live streaming for a lot longer. So he began to tell me about professional equipment, free equipment, which would enhance your live streams and make it sound much more professional. So I started keeping with Facebook Live, but there are software options which you can use, which you can link to your laptop, link to your equipment, which then goes straight into the laptop rather than through the phone. And then obviously the phone is linked to Facebook Live. It's not as complicated as it sounds. All you need really to start streaming, professional streaming, is obviously a laptop, and you can stream with your webcam from your camera if you have some good lighting. Set yourself up with some good lighting. The brighter it is, the better the camera quality. Or, of course, you can have an additional camera which you then feed in. Now, what happens is I use OBS streaming software, which is a free broadcasting software platform. It's free. You go to OBS Studio, download it for free, and then that is your base for streaming. That is what you stream everything through. And the way you do it is you have a separate piece of equipment. You have your mixing desk if you're a singer and you have your own mixing desk, or you have Apple. I believe you can do it through iRig on an Apple, where you connect your iRig up to the laptop, and then obviously it's exactly the same sort of thing. You get a better sound quality, and it goes into OBS Studio. So OBS Studio is the base, and I have a mixing desk. I have my microphone into my mixing desk. I then run the mixing desk into a thing called an audio interface. It's a very, very small box, and that is the bridge between your mixing desk and if you're playing tracks from that, or if you have an instrument, a guitar or piano, they all go into the mixing desk, and then out from the mixing desk into the audio interface, which controls the volume into your laptop and into OBS Studio. When you go into OBS Studio, you have many different settings to customize your levels and your audio. And what happens, it's basically like building a bass. So you choose where your sources are coming from. So obviously the first thing is your camera. If you have an external camera of a higher quality that as a USB into your laptop, you pick that. It's a scroll down thing. You pick that. Your audio, obviously your microphone will be your interface, and that's really how simple it is. But the good thing about OBS Studio, it's professional broadcast studio, so you can do things like cutaways, or you can set up customize your interface. So you can put logo graphics on your screen. You can cut different scenes. So if you have a scene set up where you're singing with somebody else, somebody's already sent you a video of them singing one part in the track, then you can split the screen. You can do all sorts of tricks and wizardry to make your stream a lot more interesting. I think one of the most important things about live streaming is keeping it interesting. I think that's the most important thing you have to do. So with OBS Studio, you have that luxury of being able to customize it, make it look as professional as possible. Or of course, you can just go completely raw, point and shoot like the Facebook thing. Other platforms that are very, very popular at the moment, Twitch is the big one at the moment, the big hitter that everyone is turning to. And the reason they're turning to that is because sadly, from the 1st of October, Facebook are outlawing live streams. It's a sad thing. It's aimed towards performers, musicians, DJs, anything that they say creates a music experience, they are now outlawing. Nothing to do with the quality. They're saying it is to do with their copyright. Now, Facebook, sadly, don't monetize the adverts that accompany your page. When obviously when you're streaming and you see an ad pop up on the page, they keep all the revenue from that. And what's happened is a lot of artists have complained that people are singing or using their tracks and they're not getting any money for it. So therefore Facebook will be getting themselves in trouble. And rather than monetizing it, they lock it down. Now, what I mean by monetization is where YouTube, I beg your pardon, comes in. Now, YouTube is a very different ballgame because YouTube monetize every video that goes online. If you are an original singer-songwriter and you put your own material on there and it's yours, you own the copyright for that. And any views or revenue after a certain point, you get the money for the ads that are shown monetization around your advert. So there's a monetization system. If YouTube flags up that you're singing somebody else's material, so for myself, I get copyright notices every week, and not that it's a bad thing, but what it says is that I won't make any money out of it, which is absolutely fine because I don't do it for that. And the person that owns copyright, they get the money from the adverts that are shown on my video. So that's what's going to happen. I think a lot more artists are now going to move to those type of music creation channels. YouTube has changed at YouTube Studio now. You also have YouTube Live. Facebook Live will now slowly, the penalties they say they're bringing in makes it unviable and not really a platform you should consider using, really, unless you want to have your account shut down. They say that they're going to shut down accounts, so it's not really worth it. But you have many other platforms. You obviously have the YouTube one, YouTube Live. You have Periscope as well. Now, a lot of the streaming platform, what happens when you have Stream Ob Studio, you generally have a choice of streaming to one channel. And in your Ob Studio settings, when you just point and go live, you don't need that. But if you want to do it with a professional sound system through your laptop, you have a thing called a streaming key. Now, when you set up your settings, it will ask you where you want to stream your feed. So you have a drop-down menu, Facebook Live, Twitch, anything else. And then it will say use stream key. Now, what happens is a code, a very, very long code that's specific to each one of those platforms. And you will put that into your software. And that means it links instantly to whatever platform you choose via a stream key. So then when you hit go start streaming on your Ob Studio, that then streams straight over to whatever platform you've chosen, and then you go live. And there's a 30-second delay which irons out any glitches or anything else. So you're always about 30 seconds ahead. So when you get your comments all coming up, then obviously sometimes you have to wait. if you wait for some feedback, if you're talking to an audience and you don't immediately get a response, that's why. Now, the other thing as well, if you want to stream to multiple platforms, there are paid platforms, and I pay about $40 a month for a thing called Restream. And Restream allows you to stream to about 8 different channels at once, simultaneously at once. So I have several pages myself. I have my own personal Facebook page. I have an artist and musician page, or an actor, artist and musician page. I have my duo page, which I have a singing partner. And I have my Twitter account, and I have my YouTube channel. So obviously, because in the normal circumstances, you're only able to stream to one platform. If you have this thing called Restream, it allows you, it's paid monetary, and you basically type in all the platforms that you have, you put in your login details, and it automatically streams to all of them at the same time, which is great because Periscope is the Twitter feed. And you can only sort of get that through a Restream. Twitter doesn't allow you to go live unless you go through a thing called Periscope. And that's how you do it on that one. So those are sort of some of the different platforms. You also have Decast as well, Upstream, and YouTube. YouTube Now, I think, is the new thing that they're bringing in as well. But there are a few others as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that. There's so much choice out there that really made it a bit more easier to understand which platforms to go for. So obviously marketing is super important in making sure people actually show up to your live streams. And we've seen that you regularly have a great amount of interest and attendees. So could you give us a little bit of advice on how you market your live streams? Yeah.
Now, I think one of the things you've got to do is just to actually think before you do any sort of live stream, what are the benefits for you as a live streamer? And I think one of the key elements and pros of live streaming is your brand. You have complete control over your brand. Now, this is a pro, but it's also a con, pros and cons. Live streaming allows you to grow your brand without huge amounts of physical costs. So the most important thing is understanding that the amount of potential you have for reaching an immeasurable audience on the internet. It allows you complete interaction with your fan base, your consumer base, depending on what you are using your live streaming for. Now, if you are an original singer-songwriter, it is gold for you, because getting your music heard is the most important thing for record labels to hear you, anybody to see you. And part and parcel these days, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And, you know, who's to say that somebody is watching your stream, they're friends with a very big record executive, and they say, you need to see this artist here, some amazing stuff. Record producer goes to that line, and all of a sudden there you are. You've got a potential record contract. So you have so much potential to create perfect content online. Similarly, you get sort of 1 or 2 bites of the cherry when you're live streaming. So the thing to remember is that your consumers that are watching you, they're watching the content on their time, not yours. So like I just said, you have 1 bite of the cherry to get it right. So the downside of it is it takes an awful amount of preparation and work to make sure that your channel is maximized to its best potential. You know, people are watching live streams now for a lot longer. It gives you the option to build up a very, very loyal fan base, and that sort of fan base will come back time and time again. What happened was I inherited Ryan's fan base. So the opera guy has a huge fan base. He's had over sort of 4 million views on his busking page. He goes out opera busking, and he does a lot of point and shoot live videos. But from that came an enormous amount of fans, people that saw him live streaming. They shared it. Now, this is the other thing as well that's really, really important, is if you set up your own channel, definitely set up your own channel, your own YouTube channel, specific to you, your own branding. If you can design your own logo, if you're very good with Photoshop or something like that, get your own logo, put that on all your pages so that something people automatically identify with you whenever they see your branding. And then it becomes synonymous with your songwriting, with you as a person. That logo is really, really important. And then, of course, you can build up that fan base. You know, live streaming, encourage people to subscribe to your channel, to share your music. Share. I cannot ask you enough, because not only do you reach a wide audience, you pick up followers along the way who will give you 20, 30 seconds of their time before they scroll on. Now, what you'll find in live streaming, because the good thing about YouTube is it gives you an analysis. So you can go in as part of your studio, and you can have a look after you've done a live stream at the chart. And the chart will tell you as a creator where your clicks came from. So if people saw you on Facebook, how many people saw you on Facebook? How many people watched you on YouTube and decided to click on your content? How long they watched your content for? And also at what point they moved on. So you have a sort of percentage. It's really interesting analysis, because it gives you a sort of percentage of how long people will watch you before they go, okay, what's on next? And that is absolutely clandestine. The most important thing of it is to engage people to the point where they want to stay on and watch at least 1 or 2 songs. Now, what you find nowadays is there's a thing called watch parties, and people, you know, encourage them to click a watch party, because if you're in a channel where, particularly Facebook, which will be start to phase out, but at the moment you still have a good few weeks. If people aren't friends with you on your page, and it can either be set to public and they can see it, but if you are a bit guarded about your privacy, get somebody to start a watch party, because it means that other people can then tune into that watch party and not have to be a friend. So you maximize your audience, you double your audience. So obviously, the more people you get, the more viewers you get, more people are talking about your material, more people are talking about you, and they will come back. You know, week after week, I was talking about Ryan. I inherited all of his fans, and week after week they come. Now, I don't ask for money, I don't do it for money, but I do put, as if I was in the piano bar, I do put a tip jar link, which is completely optional. I don't ask, like I've said, I don't ask for the money. If people like what they're doing, as in the piano bar, they tip. So I put a PayPal link. I have a PayPal account, and I put a PayPal link, and some people are kind enough week after week to tip you. So you can earn a living by, you know, people tipping you. But in terms of a creative thing, live streaming is absolutely incredible, because it increases demand for you as an artist with your people. The pitfalls, obviously, like I've said, with live streaming, it takes a lot of planning. Now, normally in the lockdown, my live streams were taking me over a week to source the tracks, because I don't work with bad backing tracks. I don't agree with it. And secondly, to create an experience for the listening audience, because I had people from all, and I do have people from all sort of walks of life that like all types of music. So for me, because I'm not an original artist, I do covers. I built up a live stream, including lots of musical theatre, obviously, because that's my background. Some country, which is very popular at the moment. Some modern sort of R&B, so a couple of some modern pop songs, some rock and roll, huge amounts of fans of that sort of era and generation, 60s and 60s. So it's a varied live stream that I do, but that means that people of different ages are tuning in. They're dipping out, they're going away, and they're dipping out, they're coming in. But on average, you can live stream anything up to like 400 or 500 people a night. So obviously, and then if they share that, I was watching some of the Benidorm live streams, and there were some artists that had like 2,000 people because they were being restreamed through one of the big venues over there that was shut during the time. So one of the big nightclubs had its own Facebook live stream page, and then anybody that was working there were being streamed through there. So obviously, with all the holiday makers over the years, they had thousands and thousands of viewers that went, we can't go on holiday, we're going to tune into that channel. And that's what they did. So it's really, really good. Now, the other thing as well is make sure your content is appropriate for your audience. Nobody wants to see anybody swearing their head off. It's not nice. It's not good. And also you have to remember that maybe children at home watching as well. So anything that is inappropriate, sexual content, swearing, anything like that, a big, big no-no, because you will lose your audience like that and they won't come back. So be very, very careful of what you're posting in terms of your songs. If you're doing covers, make sure it is age appropriate, because that's the other thing that will get you banned from your platforms. YouTube will ban you, Facebook will flag it as inappropriate, Twitch will also ban it as well, and Twitter will remove it. So again, make sure it's appropriate. You'll get out of it what you put into it. So for me, one of the things to do to keep people engaged is to change your artwork. Keep your logo, but change your artwork every single week. If you're doing a live stream, create something that's eye-catching. Don't saturate your feed with it, because people get very fed up with it quite quickly. If you keep posting the same picture over and over again, they don't want to know. On average, I would say put your poster out maybe the day before. People tend to flick through Facebook and go, oh, right, that's on. And then they'll keep that in mind. But then on the day, do it one in the morning, one very early in the morning, and then one maybe about 45 minutes to an hour before you're about to live stream, because then makes people go, oh, right, okay. And they will tune straight in and they will go straight to your channel. Be polite, engage your audience, talk to your audience as you would a friend if you were in the pub. So, like I say, it really, really encourage people to share and subscribe. It's your channel. So obviously do what you need to do to boost viewers, sing what you need to sing, particularly if you're in covers. Make sure that you know what audience is going to be watching you. Yeah.
Do you think a live stream will be something that you carry on even when you can perform properly back in venues?
I think so. Well, the difficulty with live streaming is because I have a setup whereby now I've tested and tried it, because obviously with the 10 p.m. curfew coming in, my point and shoot lives at the piano bar are gone, because the piano bar is now shut because it opens at 10 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning. So potentially what we've got is a situation where we might be able to go into the bar and still stream, but obviously know it's going to be closed. So I have been looking at how portable I can get my equipment to take it mobile somewhere and set up. Now obviously I run through my laptop, so that's imperative. I think if you have a large suitcase, it can be done. In terms of my lighting, I have 2 LED video lights on stands. I've used one. Most of the time I use one. And in terms of costing, really what you're looking at is Ob Studio for the broadcast is free. Now if you have a good quality laptop and your webcam is very good, perfect. All you need is adequate lighting to make it a bit more studio-like. You'll need a mixing desk. Now, some mixing desks are tiny. My mixing desk is an average size mixing desk. So, and the audio interfaces are tiny. I mean, it's like a box, a small little box, and that's it. It's just your microphone leads, then something to put the laptop stand on so that it's high, and it doesn't take an awful lot of equipment. It's just how portable you want to make it, and where you want to do your live streams. You want to make sure that you have really good lighting, really adequate sort of lighting to be doing everything like that. And obviously if you have it somewhere with a sort of clear background, like a white background as well, make you stand out and bounce off the lights. It's a trial and error thing. And also with the sound levels, take time to really get your sound levels. Think about Ob Studio. It allows you to record your video before you go live. So just test it, make sure your balance is right with your audio. I play my backing tracks off my desktop, so I can have full control over the volumes. And just before you go live, just spend a bit of time pressing record, singing a bit to a track, making sure the levels are right, your right level of reverb. You don't want it to sound like you're singing in a train tunnel, but at the same time, you want to give yourself a little bit of depth, definition with a bit of reverb. And of course, hitting record and doing all of that before you go live is great. Makes a difference in winging it by just pressing stream and then the sound being awful and teary. And also as well with the live streams, there are settings within Ob Studio, which is great, which can utilize your video content, because sometimes your video can be jittery. You can have some video lag. Ob Studio tweaks all of that and irons it all out. So that's the platform that I would highly recommend using. Definitely.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all of that. So obviously you've given a load of advice and a load of tips. But do you have like one top tip that you could advise for any musician who are wanting to get started with live stream but haven't quite done it yet?
Yeah, I think I've touched on that one already, and really engage your audience. Be charismatic, have fun. The main thing is to actually have fun. If you're doing your own material, make sure that you're loving every minute of that. You know, don't come onto a live stream and be miserable, because they don't come back. You will hemorrhage viewers. The other thing as well is make sure you know your audience, and really, really stress and really press the point that you're grateful for any person that's watching you, but also you're even more grateful for any share that they will give you. Please share and spread the word, because as an artist, the bigger the fan base you build up, the more people get to hear your material and they get to know you. That, I think, is the most important thing if you're using live stream to further a musical career, particularly in these times. I think now with the lockdowns coming, I think we're going to see more and more of it. It's a little bit like the money-making platforms, you know, like Kickstarter and Just Giving. At the beginning, they were a real novelty, and then everybody started using them. And it was only then the projects that were really good about how they pitched that people invested in, you know, because everybody then started doing it. And I think it's a little bit like that. I saw a lot of, I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but I did see a lot of very bad live streams where people were just hitting live and singing to tracks in their living room and things like that. There isn't any excuse for that now, because your software is free. And for the sake of costing a lead, you know, for couple of pounds for a lead into your laptop from an iRig or something like that, it's not an awful lot of money. If you want to do it more professionally, an audio interface is £80, and a mixing desk, well, that's, you know, 100 quid. It's a small investment for anybody that wants to do it professionally. If you don't, point and shoot is absolutely fine, but obviously in terms of quality and people taking you more seriously, the more professional you sound, then the better your live stream is going to be, if you want to take it on from there.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for that. They were very valuable points. I especially liked a bit about marketing the day before, because I think there's so much choice out there in a minute, people just forget about the event coming up. So,
I think it's good. I mean, if you're very good with Photoshop, if you have anybody, if you're not good with Photoshop, or if you find somebody that is good with Photoshop, then designing a logo for your name or something is paramount, and then getting it as a PNG. Because the other thing about OBS, you can add things to your screen, so you can have scrolling text going across the bottom with your PayPal link. You can have your logo on that. Anything that identifies you as a brand is extremely valuable, because you want people to associate you with a certain thing. It's like McDonald's associate that M with McDonald's. You know, you associate, Apple with that Apple logo. You see that Apple, you don't even know if it's anything else. So it's associating people with you, with something to associate you. And a logo, a fancy logo is good. Or simply just to advertise your streams, get a nice looking, eye-catching poster. You can use the same poster over and over again, change the date and everything else. People know. A lot of the Benidorm ones, they have the same picture, so you know what you're getting. Be very clear with your audience. Put yourself on the picture. Don't just do a fancy picture and put live streaming tomorrow. Have your face on it so people know it's you. Create your own identity brand and then market that with your live stream, so that people don't confuse the two. They know exactly what they're getting. Definitely with the marketing as well. The more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. And it's hard work. It is really hard work. If you want to use this, and I'm just talking, if you just want to live stream for fun, absolutely fine. I'm looking at this from a professional point of view, from musicians that want to go further with it, want to utilize live streaming for the best advantage for what they can get out of it, and furthering their careers, particularly at the moment because gigs aren't happening, and it doesn't look like there's going to be events venues opening for quite some time again at the moment. So this really is at the moment the prime platform, live streaming, for musicians to showcase what they can do, showcase themselves, and build up that fan base. Because the thing is, if you do really good live streams and you maybe do once a month or once every 2 weeks or once every week, try not to saturate the market as well. I mean, I did see some artists over lockdown doing one every other day, which people get bored of that. They just don't want to know. Always leave them wanting a bit more. Your live streams, I do an hour and a half. That's enough to cover all my musical bases. If I do more than that, it's because I'm carried away and people are loving what I'm doing. I still have a lot of viewers watching. If you start to watch your viewers hemorrhaging down, stop. Just leave them wanting some more and just say, right, I'll do another one next week. There's no point flogging a dead horse if there's only like 4 people watching. So I would, definitely know your audience and leave them wanting more, and just create everything. Bizarrely and ironically, create a music experience, which is the thing that Facebook wants to stop. Which is such a shame, such a terrible shame. But I understand why they're stopping. It's because of copyright, because they don't monetize like YouTube or other channels do. So I would say make sure you maximize your potential as an artist to use this, because obviously when venues do come back, the fan base you build up in lockdown are the fan base that will support you as soon as they can come and see you live. So it's really, really important that you maximize your potential with this, and it's limitless. I mean, the internet is an immeasurable force, so go crazy and create your own.
Definitely, I think it's a great to carry on performing and growing a fan base, like you said. That was great, thank you. Should we see if the audience has got any questions?
Yeah.
So if anyone's got any questions for Lee, please just pop them in the comment box below.
Is there any way of making brands deals to monetize, which can be monetized like a sponsorship? Yeah, I think there are. I think it's something, because I've never looked into it for monetization. So I'm a little bit sketchy on that. I do know Facebook, you have a supporter scheme where you can then sell merchandise. Once you build up enough followers, you get your blue tick. And a lot like my friend, the opera guy, he has then, he's got to a stage where he's got so many followers, can now monetize on Facebook in terms of like he's allowed to sell merchandise, he's allowed to have a supporter pack. In terms of YouTube, I think if you're original content, I believe that you automatically get the monetization. You automatically do that because it's your copyright. So any adverts that are related, or people covering your work or anything like that, or anyone clicking on your streams, it's monetized. And I mean, at the moment it's like Spotify with the streams, you get pence, but it adds up. Yeah. So I have my musical now, apart from the CDs, I get streaming royalties every year. So, and it's not much, it's not a huge amount, because they only pay something like 20 pence or 10 pence for something every time it's played, or something daft like that, or 2 pence or something daft. But it adds up, over a year. If you don't think about it, and you suddenly start getting your checks for 50 quid just for people listening to your music, it adds up. So I do believe there are brand deals. It's something that I would have to look into, because obviously I don't do them for money. As a serious artist, I'm sure that there are products that would probably sponsor, or ads. I know you can boost a lot of ads as well. You can pay to have your stuff boosted. So whether you could tie that in with a specific product is something that you perhaps maybe would have to take up with YouTube or whichever platform. I don't think Twitch does it or anything like that, but YouTube, I think, is the big one, and Facebook, obviously. But with Facebook, Facebook's tricky. It's an interesting thing that Facebook have outlawed the live streams to the 1st of October, and yet Facebook bought the OBS streaming software company last year. So I suspect at some point we're going to see Facebook offering live streaming as a monetary option, because they bought OBS Studio a little while ago. So yeah, I suspect so. But yeah, how do you choose where to live stream from, and would you recommend the use of promotional material like a backdrop? Yes, absolutely. I'm very lucky because I have white walls at home. So I get away with not having a backdrop. But if I had anything like coloured wallpaper, I would get a backdrop. You can get them on Amazon or something for like £15 for a white drop, like a photography white drop at the back. Or if you, with Ob Studio, it also gives you, if you're a bit of a whiz, with chroma key. Now, what I say about chroma key is you can add special effects to your live streams on Ob Studio, where, you know, if you can put a fancy background in, you can buy a green screen. If you buy one of those things that are green, you can chroma key in any picture or any background. So you could do a live stream looking like you're in the Bahamas with a backdrop, green backdrop with chroma keys. How do you choose where to live stream from? Now, obviously, Ob Studio, like I said, it gives you, if you have accounts with Twitter, if you have an account with YouTube, and I strongly advise you as an artist to set up your own YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. Again, something you can personalize, but then gives you options to upload your own videos, etc., etc. Within the copyright rule. Now, the copyright rule for you shouldn't be making money charging people for other people's work. There is a rule of fair use. And what happens is, like I said, YouTube get around that fair use thing and you singing other people's covers by monetizing the adverts that are shown around your page and the product when you click on. Some artists, particularly Prince, was a very, very big advocate if he didn't want other people covering his work. So very, very rare occasions you will have your work taken down. As a rule, it doesn't generally happen because any publicity for an artist is good publicity, because if they listen to your song, they might want to go and then listen to the original. So it's pointing people towards the song. Stereophonics are another one that are very particular about their copyright. They have often asked people to the companies to remove their material. West End stuff, you see a raft of people. You only literally have to type in something like Phantom of the Opera and there's a million people covering it. Stuff like that never gets taken down because it's good publicity, and also it's still making money for those companies and those artists. So there's that to take into consideration. How do you choose where to live stream from? If you mean in terms of what platform is best to choose, it's entirely up to you. Obviously, I would go for the big hitters. The most popular ones are Twitch and Facebook until the 1st of October, and YouTube. And like I say, in the software, Ob software itself, it will give you a drop-down option where you want to stream to. And then when you log into that stream, so say, for instance, you want to stream to YouTube, when you go into your YouTube channel, it will give you a live stream option. And it will say, do you want to just go live from your camera, like your phone or something, or do you want to use a stream key? And what will happen when it says that, it will have a great big long code which you copy and paste into your pull down menu in Ob Studio. So say, for instance, I wanted to stream to YouTube. I go to Ob Studio. In the stream settings, I scroll down to YouTube, and then I put in the stream key from YouTube into Ob Studio, and that automatically links the two. It's a genius piece of software which will automatically link the two. And then, of course, in Ob Studio, when I hit start streaming, that will link straight away to my YouTube page, and it will go live on YouTube until you obviously stop streaming on Obs. Yeah. The other thing to remember, just remember to stop the live stream as well. I had a little incident where I thought I'd stopped the live stream, and then a great big spider ran over my foot, and I was effing and blinding and cussing. So yeah, there we go. Just remember to slow it down. How can we beat work tax with digital earnings and monetize streams? We can't. Obviously, with monetization, I believe monetization is set up on YouTube through your bank account or through your PayPal. So with tax systems, everything you earn, I'm never going to advocate hiding anything from the inland revenue, because it's just not worth it. Be very transparent. There are lots of things you can claim for as musicians, so you can equally claim just as much with your digital earnings. I'm always very transparent. You've got to be in this day and age. If you're not, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble. And the monetized earnings, I believe, go straight into your bank account. I think it's set up in the beginning when you want to do it monetary, because Facebook, YouTube, I beg your pardon, has an option where you can sign up to monetization. So that's what happens, and it goes to the bank. There's not an awful lot you can do unless you just don't declare it, which I would never ever advocate. It's just not worth it.
Definitely not. Do we have any
Thanks
more
for that, Mars.
guys?
Has COVID-19 caused a shift in responsibility back to distributors of recorded music? The excuse that artists ought to make their money exclusively from live performances clearly become obsolete. Yeah, it's an interesting. It is really, isn't it? I mean, at the moment, COVID-19 has. I mean, I hate that word. If I never hear the word unprecedented ever again, it'll be a day too soon. But it really has, in terms of, it's crushed our industry. COVID-19 has crushed theatre. My theatre background is musical theatre primarily, and as a piano vocalist, when I'm not working, my industry is destroyed. Distributors, it's a tricky one really, because I don't think distributors are still making music. Everything has moved online. I mean, years ago I worked for Virgin and Megastore. CDs, everything was about CDs. Now it became about MP3s. Now it's about streaming, Spotify. Years ago I would never have advocated Spotify, because I like to physically have music. I like to physically have a CD on the case, and that sort of phased out. Then that became MP3s. So my music collection in terms of CDs ended in about 2005. So it's incredible to just see the change. And obviously streaming is the latest thing. So more and more stuff is coming out online. More and more people are being discovered online. And I'll give you an example, not so much this, but my friend ended up in a very big television series in America. And basically they were casting, and he sent an online video. And then within 24 hours, he was flown over to Hollywood, and he got the role. And he was in a very, very big show. So, and he's quite a big star now. But he was discovered online playing a song. And that's the power of sort of online, and particularly like live streaming. And also I had a casting director who hasn't seen me physically in the room for about 10 years, who's stumbled across me online. And then I've just been in recently for a casting for that casting director as a result of having been seen online. So the power of that is extraordinary. The excuse that artists ought to make their money exclusively for live performance. Yeah, now live performance. Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, before, a lot of people would go to like the O2 academies and watch an artist live, and you'd have to build up your fan base by performing in there's like Take That, were trawling the clubs years and years and years before they hit the big time. You know, promoting their singles, they would have to go around all the clubs singing their songs and do the dance routines. Whereas online, it's all shifted. It's sort of slightly shifted now to the responsibility of artists almost semi-promoting themselves. I know Tom Grennan was a big artist at the moment. Tom Grennan was always online. His stuff, I knew his stuff online before I ever knew of him hitting the big time. So I think there is a responsibility. There is an excuse, not responsibility, an excuse that artists should make their money. Yeah, it's an interesting one, that one. I know how I feel about it. I mean, it's a 50-50 thing. Yeah.
Do you have any more?
Last question, I think. Yeah.
Do I think that online distributors of music take advantage of artists? If you mean a certain platform that streams music, yes, I do. I think the royalties are far less than what they should be. And in particular, there is a certain brand that make phones that had a music platform for a long time that I had my stuff distributed for. And as a basis, the CDs, they governed what the price of the CD was, and they put it out at £15, and they took something like 8 of that £15. So some distributors do. This is a personal opinion. I don't want this gospel. I certainly don't want to end up in any hot water. But personal opinion, I do think that some online distributors are taking advantage in terms of what they charge in percentages for distributing your material. But this is also a golden time. I think the thing about COVID-19, the extraordinary thing about COVID-19, as devastating as it is out of the ashes rises the phoenix. And I think that now is a golden time for people. Set up your own labels, set up your own companies, your own brand, your own identity, because this is the way I think it's going forward. I think going forward, more people are going to go to independent artists and people showcasing them. I mean, artists have risen up online for years and years and years. But now is the time, particularly where people lock down, they spend more time online. People are spending more and more time online, glued to their smartphones, because they can access stuff at their desk at work, on their lunch breaks, on the tubes at night. So there's more and more scope constantly for people to see your stuff and see you. So yeah, distributors do take advantage, but I think those days will run out. Everything has its day. And I think because so many options now are appearing online, those unscrupulous people like that phone maker and others are slowly starting to be eclipsed by independent labels, independent stuff, and artists getting noticed in their own merit. So getting their own contracts as a result of what they've contributed to their own work, their own success. So yeah, I agree.
I like
Thanks for that, Emily.
As well, even though COVID obviously is terrible, it is a good time to really build up your online presence.
It's an interesting thing, because I was, like I said, I was locked down completely on my own for 14 weeks, and I've had a hit list because I make backing tracks as well. I have a lot of software where I can make backing tracks, and I've had a hit list of backing tracks that I've wanted to make for about 5 years. And I've never got around to it because I can be quite lazy in doing that. I'll go, yeah, I need to do that. And then I'll get distracted with something else and I'll get into another project. And I've never really got time to do my own thing, like making my own tracks. So lockdown, to keep focused, apart from the live streams, which took about a week to plan and then get ready and design the artwork. And the way the week went was Monday, I would have a complete day off. I would always stream on a Sunday night. Because as well, your days of the week are very, very important when you do your live streams. You have to think of what people are doing in the week when they're most likely to be online. People statistically are either most likely to be online first thing in the morning when they're having breakfast, traveling into work, on the tubes, anything else, or later on in the evening. After the soaps are very important in people's households, with your audience. After the soaps, after 8 o'clock, and then you have a time frame. I found that in the statistics that a lot of my live streams would drop off between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. Because I'm a bit of a night owl, but what you notice is a lot of people are not night owls, so they will go to bed 10 o'clock. 10:30 maximum, because they got work in the morning. So you would see the statistics of starting huge spike, dip, huge spike, dip, huge spike, and then start to drop. So yeah, I don't know why I got into that, but yeah.
It's so important to think about simple stuff like that, which will affect how many people actually show up. Yeah,
absolutely show up. Yeah, and those people are more likely to start the watch parties and share your stream and your feed and your material. And the amount of time I'd see my name tagged in something where someone say, oh, have a look at this so and so, have a look at this song is great, this song is you. So yeah, defo.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Well, thank you
next
so
question,
much.
Next question.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we've done the podcast.
Yeah, that was great, really knowledgeable. Like, I learned a lot about platforms and how to market it. I'm sure
it's great. Well, I mean, all I say is, if you're watching, just follow me, share, and subscribe.
That's what you got to do.
Get your plug in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
When we put the video on, we'll put your contact details on.
Yeah.
And get it all shared.
Great.
But thank you so much for your time and all your advice and knowledge. It's been really great chatting to you.
Yeah.
Great. I'll see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
See you on. Bye.
Well, that was Lea Ormsby. That was great. I love that.
I think he's given us some great tips for anyone who does want to utilise live streaming or get into it even.
Definitely. So shall we get our second guest speaker on?
Yes, I think we should.
So our second speaker of the night is Lea. Lea was born in Austria. She moved to London to study A&R and songwriting at Notting Hill Academy of Music. She's got experience in performing in many venues and busking around Austria, Germany and the Netherlands. Their debut single, Tired of Your Talking, climbed the Austrian iTunes chart.
All this experience has helped Lea pick up a wide range of knowledge in marketing, A&R, content creation, branding, and growing a fan base, which is essential for any artist. So hopefully she's going to give you guys some great advice.
Let's get her on.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
you. I'm so excited to be on.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Amazing. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, it's all fine for us. If there is any problems for anyone, please just write in the comments and we'll try and sort it out. Yeah.
Perfect.
So far, so good with all technical.
I know, it's really scary, this technology, isn't it? You don't know what's going to happen.
It is hit and miss.
Yeah, sometimes.
So do you want to start with just telling us a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a singer-songwriter, an artist, and a producer. I've been kind of doing it for the past 4 years. Kind of started playing my first gigs at the age of 16, and then moved to London last year. Before that, I was busking a lot around Austria, Germany, the Netherlands. And since I moved to London, I've been studying songwriting in A&R at the Notting Hill Academy of Music, which has been very great and insightful, and I've just learned a lot. Before lockdown, my life looked a lot different, I guess it did for everyone. And I would go to loads of networking events and play lots of open mics, but also lots of gigs with promoters and just network a lot, songwrite a lot. Just try to learn everything I could. And then lockdown happened. And since then, I've been just trying to, grow my fan base, stay sane, and just be creative and see what I can do.
Have you got any, what techniques have you found are best for growing a following on social media? Because obviously that's so important now with everything being online.
Oh, definitely. I think what is important is that you post daily if you can. Make sure that your content is good. Make sure it's got quality. Make sure you got good photos of yourself. Maybe try and hire a professional, like a photographer, or ask a friend who knows what they're doing to take pictures of you. Make sure if you upload videos that the sound is great. If you're going to upload stuff that is, for example, covers or your original music, that's really important. And then make sure if you have more than one social media channel that all your icons that are next to your profile name, I guess, are the same on every single platform, so people can quickly distinguish you from other people. I think that's really, really important. And then also I think it's so important to be unique with what you are bringing to people. Make sure you are delivering great content that actually adds something value to people's social media experience, because I think that will really make people engage with your content and connect to you as a person as well. Which then brings me on to the last point. It's make sure you interact with your audience. Make sure you give them what they want. So maybe ask them what covers they would like to hear or what content they would like to see more of. Make sure maybe that you really build around your branding as an artist as well. Think of what you enjoy doing yourself and think of how that could tie into your brand. So for example, with me, I don't know, I'm vegan. I really like food, so I would post a lot of content surrounding food because I like cooking and stuff, and that's something else that people can connect to through me posting about it. And that connects them to my brand, it connects them to me as a person, because at the end of the day, you just want to be as authentically yourself as possible so people can really buy into you as a person, because if they like what they see of you as a person, they will definitely also like your music, or they're more likely to actually stream your music, they're more likely to engage with your content. Exactly. So just
I agree. I think it is super important to build that connection.
Definitely.
Expect people to just watch it. You need to build a connection, engage with them. That's really valid point. There's so many different sites for different audiences on, and so much choice within social media. What is the best social media platform you find for growing awareness and engagement?
So for me personally, Instagram works best. I just like the layout of Instagram. I like how it's basically like a website where you kind of collect put a little portfolio of who you are as an artist. I really like that about it. I love how many options it has of creating content with all the stories, the live streams, the hand-free stuff, all the music that you can add, the polls, all of that stuff I think is great. But I think you just have to see what works best for you as an artist. I know that my demographic of people I'm looking at that consume my music are usually between 14 and 28 years old. So I know that Instagram's demographic is kind of within that range. So that's why for me, I think Instagram is best. But for someone that maybe is more about just playing covers or has a different kind of genre of music, I'm very pop. So anything that isn't what that kind of demographic would usually listen to. Have a look at other social media platforms, like, for example, Facebook. Or if you have a very young demographic, I would also say go on TikTok. TikTok is definitely great for any artist that has got really cool, kind of memorable, hooky music as well. And just see what you also want to put out there, what kind of content you want to create to engage with your audience. Because, as I said, I really like how you can do stories on Instagram. I know you can do that on Facebook too. The question is, will people engage as much with it as on as on Instagram? Because obviously it's different demographics again. Yeah, just have a look what works best for you.
We personally think that having a brand image is really important and keeping it consistent. And you also do have a website along with your social media. And your website goes with your brand image. So we're just wondering, did you make the website yourself? Where did you go for inspiration with this?
Mm-hmm. So yes, I made some website myself. I made it using Jimdo, which is a great website host. It's, I think, about £10 a month, which is really not that expensive. There's also other services where you can create your website for free. You just won't have your own domain. If you want your own domain, then you should really pay for it. And I think personally, it really pays off because it makes sure that your website name can never be given to anyone else, and it's your unique thing that you pay for monthly. And it's just secure. I think when you think of creating a website, you should have a look at other people's websites. So, for example, artists that sound similar to you, have a look on their website, see what their assets look like, what kind of layout they have, what kind of photos they use, and then really make sure that you have very high quality, high res quality pictures of yourself that you can use for the website. Think of a color scheme, think of your branding and what you want to put out there in terms of what message you want to convey with your music, and really connect that to your branding and the types of colors you use. And I would also suggest you make yourself a logo, or you hire someone to do it for you. There's this great website called Fiverr, which is spelled Fiverr. And it's great. You can basically go on there, search for people that make logos, and it will be very cheap. I think you can get a logo made for £15 or something. And it's great graphic designers that really know what they're doing, and they can help you out really quickly if you need any help with that. Also, there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube. If you don't know how to do something, there's you can create everything with the website builder on Jimdo or on Wix or on Squarespace or whatever website host you want to use. But also, if you want any special kind of bits, there's little bits of coding you can do as well, which I did. And there's lots of tutorials, as I said, that you can kind of watch, and they explain it really well, I found. But you can also just email them, and there's a great support team of experts that know exactly how it works and that can maybe help you as well.
That's reassuring, because I know for a lot of musicians it's quite daunting, the thought of having to create your own website.
Yeah.
Knowledgeable. Do you think it's brought you much benefit having your website, would you say?
Expensive?
Brought you much benefits?
Oh, benefits, sorry. Well, I think it's so important to have a website, because if social media suddenly disappeared, no one will be able to find you anymore, right? So I think it's so important to put your brand out there, so you can connect with your fan base. For example, I always put all my gig dates on there. I kind of have a social media feed on my website as well, so people that, for example, find my website but don't follow me on social media yet can follow me via that. I kind of update people update people on the music I'm making and stuff like that. And I think why our website is also quite cool is because you can ask people to sign up to your newsletter. So then you can create a newsletter yourself and can keep people in the loop via email, which is also a really great way to kind of engage with your fan base as well. And on top of that, I think it's so important to have a website because it looks very professional to have a kind of portfolio about yourself as an artist online that music industry professionals can look at, labels can look at, colleagues of yours can look at, anyone that wants to find out what you are about can just find and quickly have a look at it and see what you're about at a glance. So I think it's just great to have a website.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What kind of experiences have you found that social media has allowed you to gain?
I think it's been great for networking, especially during lockdown when I couldn't go out and meet people on a daily basis. It's been great to kind of connect with creatives. Like I've met so many cool photographers and videographers that are going to help me make my music videos, for example, for the next few releases I've got planned. But it also really made me able to connect with artists that are doing the same thing I do, and it's kind of been great to support each other through lockdown. But also I've been doing live streams where I've had an artist on a week on my live stream, and they would play some of their songs and I would ask them questions about the music and stuff, and it was just really great. And then I think just engaging with your fan base has been really important as well, and so much fun. Yeah.
Definitely. So you also have a lot of knowledge regarding A&R. We wasn't too familiar with the term due to being more event-based than music-based. So could you just explain to our viewers what A&R is really as a whole?
Of course. So A&R stands for Artist and Repertoire. It's basically the job role of people at labels that go hunting for talent. So they would kind of find the talent and maybe convince the label to sign the artist, but they are also then taking care of the artist within the label. So they are working with all the different kind of what you call it, with all the different kind of I lost the word. With all the different parts of the label, that's what I wanted to say. So people, for example, marketing, people that produce the song, producers, managers, and so on. They all work together to really make sure that the artist and their project, so the song, the artwork, for example, the music video, the branding of the artist, social media, etc., is a perfect package to get released to the world. I also think everyone's doing AR. When you are choosing what song to listen to at this given moment, you are doing A&R because you are picking what you like hearing. So I think it's also something that everyone does on a daily basis if you're into music anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So do you have any tips regarding A&R for other musicians?
Yeah, really? How they could get recognised maybe, or potentially signed.
Yes. So I think in terms of being an artist and being found by A&Rs, I think it's just about doing as much as you can in terms of networking, playing gigs. Networking and playing gigs really, because that's how they would find you. A&Rs go to gigs, they go to networking events, they try to find the next talent, but they also find a lot of talent online. So I think it's just about being consistent in terms of your branding, your creative image around yourself as an artist, and how good your work is, because I think eventually if you stay consistent doing what you do, someone will find you. And in terms of wanting to be an A&R or wanting to get into A&R, if you're interested in lots of artists and you just love music in general and think you could be great at spotting talent, then I think it is very important for you to know what is going on in terms of music and culture and the music scene in your city or in your area, and really connect with artists that are on the rise at the moment. Have a look at how they're being developed by the label or by their A&R team, and really like keep up to date. Make sure you know everything that is going on with artists that you love, but also be very open to getting to know new people. And also sometimes A&Rs help artists develop themselves as well. I think there's probably lots of managers out there who help artists to find themselves in an A&R way as well. So yeah, just know the industry, keep up to date, and yeah, network, I guess.
I think you could be good at A&R. I was going to say you're like A&R for Matty Healy.
So going back a bit on when we was on about brand and stuff, do you have any advice for content creation? You know, for an artist, like what kind of things should they be putting out on their page other than just their music, I guess? Like, yeah, like, do you have like any idea where they can,
or on any maybe like platforms? We've got really familiar with Canva at the minute, which is great.
Yeah,
you know, to like help in content creation.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I think that kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is like think of 5 things that you as a person enjoy doing and see if you can connect that to your brand. Because I think people are kind of tired of always just seeing selfies. Make sure you sound unique when you, for example, do covers, because I think everyone can do covers that sound exactly like the original kind of thing. But if you do something very funky with it, for example, a friend of mine, she's great. She samples sounds of things. So she would buy like a watermelon and cut it, and then she would sample that sound and do like a great production around it, and then make a cover of Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles, for example. That's super unique, and that's something people will connect to. In terms of like where you can find inspiration, I think you should just have a look around on social media, see what inspires you, and pick little bits and pieces to make your own special content for your account. Make sure it ties in with your branding. I think websites like Pinterest or YouTube can be very helpful as well. It's always very handy to know a little bit about Photoshop or other kind of photo editing applications, but it's also great to know how to, for example, edit video on Final Cut or Adobe Premiere or whatever you use, because that really helps with making content unique and looking very professional as well. And yeah, just make sure your content is great. Like, you can do so much with an iPhone. You don't always have to, I don't know, pay $1,000 for a photographer to take pictures of you for one afternoon. You can really like get a lot done with just an iPhone if you know someone who's good enough to shoot great photos of you. Yeah, just make sure you have fun with what you're doing and that it looks unique.
Definitely. Just to add to that, we've used Canva, which is a great platform. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with it. Just in creating different content for different social media platforms. Mm-hmm. And then also Hootsuite as well. That's really great in scheduling your posts, you know, in case obviously when we don't have time. It's just an extra tip. It's quite useful to schedule them in.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much for all of that. Should we see if the audience has got any questions?
Of course. Do you feel like you have a specific target audience, or do you just target the mainstream? I think I have a specific target audience. I haven't released music since last July. So I think my audience has changed a lot in that time, and I've developed a lot as an artist, and it's always about retargeting where your audience actually lies. But I think that's just something you find out by doing your music and connecting with people, kind of thing. Yeah, and I think it's like, it's good to target the mainstream in a way. If you know that's where your brand sits, then that's amazing. But I think it's also great to be niche, because there's so many artists out there that make a great living off doing a really niche kind of genre of music. The good thing about that is there is always going to be an audience for whatever music you make. There's always going to be someone that loves listening to it. And the more niche it is, the easier it is for you to actually have a big audience that will then come to your gigs and stuff. It might take longer than for artists that are more mainstream to kind of build that audience. But once you have built it, it's definitely great because it will stay. whereas mainstream audiences tend to kind of always get onto the next new thing and hardly ever stays with the artist. So yeah, I think it's great to be niche as well. Is there anything in particular you would focus on when establishing a brand as a musician in order to create the fan base for your music? Yes, I would personally focus on your music first. Know what kind of genre you would place yourself in. Know what you sound like, what you want to look like, who is your target audience, what are they into? Kind of like think about what kind of clothes they wear, what places they go to, what other artists they like, what they watch online. I mean, it's kind of almost getting into the stalkery kind of field, but you know, just the better you know your audience, the more you know where you're going to fit in with your music. Get the music right first is definitely my main advice.
Perfect. I think that is all the questions. If anybody's got anything else, please just pop it in the comment box now. Thank you so much for that, Leah. That was great. Really
Thank you so much. If anyone's still got any questions, you can always just DM me on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere. I'm sure you'll find me, and yeah, just ask.
Yeah, we will put your social media on. I was just thinking we could end on your one top tip piece of advice for new and inspiring musicians who's starting to build up their online presence. I know we've gone over loads of tips, but there's got to be one top tip. Yeah.
I think it's being yourself and just keep it going. Just never give up. Because I think it can be very disappointing sometimes when you start out. Like when you start out and you don't have any fan base, it can be quite disappointing to not see the results you're expecting to see. Because I think everyone then dreams of the big overnight success and stuff. But the thing is, overnight success doesn't exist. You have to work for years to then have something like an overnight success. It's just a lot of work and a lot of consistency that goes into it. But I think if you stay consistent, you can really, really make the music industry work really well for you. So yeah, just stay consistent and just be yourself, I guess, because that will make people connect to you. Yeah, definitely.
Authenticity is key.
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on and talking to us. We've gained so much knowledge. I'm sure all the listeners can agree with us. Like Becky said, we'll put your details below so they can contact you if they need anything else.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is such a cool event. I'm definitely going to watch the rest of it.
Thank you so much. See
Thank
you
you
later.
so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you had a nice little break, topped up your wine.
Yeah.
Or your brew.
We have already spoken to Lea Ormsby on utilising social media and live streams.
Mm-hmm.
We have spoke to Leah on how to make the best out of social media and websites and brand awareness and content creation. Yep.
And we've got one last guest speaker left. But before that, we've got some amazing entertainment for you all. Becky, have you ever wondered what happens when a folk songwriter is merged with an indie rock band?
No, but I feel like you're going to tell me.
Well, if you have, then the result is this incredible indie rock band. I can't wait for you all to hear it. It's made up of Josh, Ollie, Harry, and Aaron. And they are called the Mardlers, and they've kindly presented us with a stripped back version of a few of their songs. We're going to put that on now for you. Hopefully, it's technology's not too bad. We're hoping it sounds okay. If any issues, do let us know, but we will also post the video separately later.
Yeah, after the event. So, team, do what you do best.
Hi, we're the Mardlers. This is for front of stage events, and this song's called 1969. Snowflake generation came wish we picked a better name. At least leather jackets never lose their style. We hitched a ride from London up to Edinburgh in search of more than traffic, but was stopped in search at least every mile. The copper wants photo ID, I said. You can be sure I'm me, he says. I've got no time for cocky kids, especially the jobless, homeless ones like you, the fearless and the taxless too. What year do you think it is? I said it's 1969, far as I'm concerned. Sure you haven't, well the lost ones are left alive. Go and spread the word, go and spread the word, if you haven't. If Diet Coke had rock and roll and tried to carbonate her soul, hey, as long as David Bowie died in style, I know the lads that left the 27 Club sold off what was left of free love and threw another check on the pile. But there are still a couple others left. We're limping, but we're not down yet. Sergeant Pepper's soldiers still march on, and we march on through this spineless, rootless Disneyland that'll turn these songs into a brand and tell me where I'm going wrong. But it's 1969, far as I'm concerned. Sure you haven't heard, sure you haven't. Well, the lost ones are left alive. Go and spread the word, go and spread the word, if you haven't. And they said rock and roll was dead, and my head was so long. Because it's 1969, far as I'm concerned. Sure you haven't heard, sure you haven't. Where the lost ones are left alive. Go and spread the word, go and spread the word, if you haven't. 1969, far as I'm concerned. Sure you haven't heard, sure you haven't. Where the lost ones are left alive. Go and spread the word, go and spread the word, if you haven't. The song's called Invisible. I want to be the stranger in your bed. The hell's been freezing over for years. I know it's not the sort of thing out loud that should be said, but it's obvious that I'm a little weird. But I don't mind it. No, I don't mind it at all. They put me full of medicine and put me on my feet again. I promise prim and proper till I also politely decided that I don't care at all. has been cold 100 days. You move around it many ways, but never say never, never say never again. And did you know you're invisible, invisible when no one's watching? And did you know you're invisible when no one's watching? Disappear when I stop looking. To be the voice inside your head. I can tell you things that you didn't know you were feeling. See, there's three in mine that quite easily led. I can lend you one, and we can share the screaming. And if you like it, maybe I'll give you them all. Heaven knows I had enough of sterilizing lies and love is something nice to put it on, but you never wanted to try it. Here it is, just a second and it's missed. You can hold it in your fist and say I'm wrong. Say I'm wrong. But did you know you can say what you want, and I'll hope that you were wrong. No, I don't mind it. No, I don't mind it at all. Hell is colder now than it's ever been. This last song's called Someplace Warm. I have walked 100 journeys, and I have slept 1,000 more. And if my shadow will always find me, it's never been to Baltimore. Come sit down, you're in no hurry. Your voice is kind, and your call is clean, and that's enough to make you lucky. But if you're not, it's all the same. And if the winter makes me shiver, I find my way, I find my way, I find my way, someplace warm. strong enough to drink. You're young and proud, and that might age you. It's not a thing you get to choose. I pick my battles where I find them. I sometimes win, but I never lose. And if the winter makes me shiver, I find my way. I find my way. Find my way. There's someplace warm.
So it's time for our final speaker. I'm so excited for this one. We've got Martin Barraclough. Martin is a health and safety consultant in TV, film and the live music sectors, and more recently has been in charge of editing the PSA Tour production group COVID-19 guidance.
This means he is super clued up on health and safety in the live music sector, which is more important than ever before. Martin is also a mental health advocate, and he's going to give us some great advice on how to keep a clear, healthy mindset throughout this uncertain time.
So let's get him on.
Hello everyone, how you doing? How you doing?
Hi. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us today.
No problems at all.
So you want to start with just a little introduction to yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. So feels weird to be following a band actually in a time like this, doesn't it? But I've been working around bands for about 20 years now. And I started out as a crew person in small venues. I've worked through different technical disciplines, been an audio guy, lighting, built a lot of stages, and toured around a lot. There's probably a few current or old colleagues even on this call right now. I've managed a large crew workforce for most of my career. So, you know, well experienced in looking after people's welfare and also seeing different sides of lots of different people who are coming through the industry. And a lot of people moved on in the industry that I worked with as crew in the first place, like me. And through my career, I've moved into different roles just through natural progression, really. Been a site manager, a production coordinator, stage manager over the years. I had a trigger in 2008 where we had a crew person die in a large stage accident on a Madonna tour. And that really triggered me into a more safety conscious career. I began an academic journey about 5 years ago. Now I really serve more as a consultant to try and improve the situation in the industry. And obviously during 2020, that work has mostly been around COVID-19. So I've been trying to help various companies, organisers, get something going this year and at least return to work with some COVID security. And also, as you mentioned, been quite involved in writing the COVID-19 touring guidelines, which we're actually about to take on and edit again and update for the current situation. Probably worth noting, just as we go into this section, everyone, that, you know, my focus is really upon event production, music shows production. So when we talk about COVID-19, there's a whole element, and most of the element is around not being able to allow crowds in, but that's a completely different set of experts that really deal with those issues. We're focusing on the issues of occupationally going to work, performing, trying to do music events during COVID-19. So just a bit more of a general view then, you know, I've been exposed to all the good and the bad of the industry over 20 years. I've seen a lot of change in the industry. I've become interested in mental health and welfare and behavioural safety over the past few years. And that's really through bad experiences, losing friends, seeing lots of colleagues struggle, and really just wanting to help and improve that situation, you know, for us all. And 2020 again has really brought all that into focus. So we'll talk some about that during this session. And really, you know, I know we've got a mixture of people on this call, but certainly there's quite a few people who are coming into the industry either as performers or, you know, organisers, planners of varying kinds. So we're just here to try and, you know, give you some tips to try and better prepare, inform yourself, and gain some resilience to go forward into your careers with.
That is great. So COVID-19 has had an effect on music and event industry massively. There's been a lot of confusion around the subject and what has been affected and what hasn't, and what you can and what you can't do. So what is the bigger picture of COVID-19 and touring production shows?
Yeah, so obviously, you know, clearly, like I said, the big issue is it not being able to have crowds at events. You know, we've seen even more delays, even today, to that process of recovering that. A lot of artists have done a good job of trying to do a lot of streamed performances, which has really kept things ticking over. We have seen the start of some test events, and, you know, some people have done a pretty good job at trying to use the outdoor weather to hold some socially distanced shows, which move on to a little bit as well. But the trouble with touring specifically is always going to come down to budget, you know. So quite often a tour will require almost all its shows to go well in some way in order to really turn a profit or to make it worthwhile. So if that's not possible to go around all the different places still, or when you do go somewhere, ticket sales are much lower, that's going to make things difficult in basic terms, no matter what the size of the event or the gig. You know, on the other side of the coin, people that supply all the equipment and all the transportation and all the facilities that we use for music performances specifically, they're all now subject to extra costs, extra procedures. So costs are going to rise, and that's also an effect on how much you can reasonably do without losing money. You know, then we also can move on to talking about insurance. So cancellation insurance, you know, promoters will usually use cancellation insurance, and it would be in place, but it would very rarely include cover for a communicable disease, which is what we can call COVID-19. So some people did have it occasionally, but in the most part, it wouldn't be included. And certainly in new policies now, it's almost impossible to get cover for communicable diseases specifically. So how do you insure against the uncertainty or anything that could cancel your event to do with COVID-19? So yeah, these shows that have gone on, and, you know, Utility Arena's just finished in the last few days. in Newcastle, which I'm sure everybody's seen. Everybody's done a really commendable job there. But really, that's been the only successful music performance event of its kind to make use of the good weather with a good run. A lot of people have done drive-in shows and things like that. They're all very commendable what people have achieved. Well, if anything, they have just highlighted the challenges that we're facing now as we go to traditionally the indoor season and Freshers Week. The threat level from COVID-19 is variable, which is also a huge problem because things are planned so far in front. So, yesterday we hit level 4 again. So anyone that has glanced at the touring guidelines, we were very much sticking to the 5 threat levels from COVID-19 so that we could apply that level at any time, either locally or internationally. So we've hit level 4 again in this country now. So it's understandable that there's going to be significant disruption. So that's part of the bigger picture, as is local lockdowns. We've been seeing a lot of variety. So if you were hoping to do a tour and go around 10 venues in the UK in different cities, it's really hard to plan for that at the moment. So it means we're down to single shows of very limited formats. And then recently we've seen public health organisations that are basically attached at local government level cancelling events because of a perceived public health threat. Doncaster races stops letting spectators in after the first day, cost of about $250,000 to the organiser. The Southampton Boat Show was cancelled with 2 days to go. And there's other examples of that happening and probably will continue to happen. And what that really does is erode confidence. So that's the big old depressing, unfortunate picture. But it gives us some rationale to sort of move on with.
Perfect. So obviously, due to all that, there's so many new things to consider, new restrictions and guidelines to be put in place. What are the requirements needed to organise and perform while COVID-19 is still with us?
Yeah, so again, I want to try and apply this to all sizes of shows. And when we came together to write the touring guidelines, we really had to encompass all different sizes. We didn't just want to write a document that was about arena-sized shows, but there really is just a common set of things that will need to happen in any case. Feasibility assessment is the first thing. And what that means is we need to find out how likely it is for that event to be allowed. How much extra is it going to cost? How much more time are you going to need? Then you have to think about the team that you're putting together. How are you going to keep that team safe? What size team can you have? How do those people feel about COVID-19? Because people have a whole variety of feelings about what's happening at the moment. Some people think we shouldn't be under any restrictions, and some people think we haven't gone far enough. So, especially in a gig perspective, picking the right team is going to be really important. Next is going to be obviously venue. So venues are under huge challenges at the moment, but you have to align with the venue. And you have to work together for any event that's going to take place to try and make it successful. We're not really there yet. It's not really common for this to be happening, but, some people are trying different formats out. A lot of venues, especially smaller ones, have ventilation problems, and we don't mean air conditioning. We need fresh air ventilation in rooms. It's a really big factor in keeping things COVID secure. That's why a lot of trials have happened in bigger places that have got that ventilation in place. Then we have to look at how we're going to get around, how we're going to get there. Sharing vehicles means you can't socially distance from somebody in terms of track and trace. So share a vehicle with somebody and they get it, you have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. And track and trace is a huge factor now in event planning. I'm actually currently, working for a TV show at the moment, but we have 200 crew, and we have to literally keep a log every day of who comes within close contact of who. And it's because NHS Track and Trace require you to self-isolate for 14 days if you have a close contact with somebody. So clearly, in the scope of a gig performance, or if you're hoping to go to more than one place, or try and put any type of event on, that's going to be a huge factor, potentially losing people before the event actually happens. Hygiene, and then more hygiene. So sanitising stations, regular wipe downs of all regular touch points, not sharing anything. Unfortunately, it's things like disposable cutlery. Catering's a big factor as well. The transmission on surfaces of the virus is right up there with the risk factors, along with you breathing it out of your mouth, essentially. So the face coverings is an absolute no-brainer. They do work. They do reduce the risks. Universal policy for anyone trying to put any kind of event on, except for the actual time of performance, with some suitable distancing at the front of the stage. And actually, hands, face, space is a pretty good slogan. I won't get into politics whatsoever tonight, but hands, face, space really does sum it up. Also, people that are working on events, what are they doing in the downtime? What we're seeing a lot as things go on is, the pubs, the public spaces can have an effect, even if it's somebody you don't know. People that were at the pub at a certain time get told to self-isolate. That's happening more. People are picking it up in places like that, in shops. Are you visiting people's houses? Are people being compliant with the rules? So that's all your event staff have to be on board with this. And we're calling it a 100% buy-in. So it starts with the people at the top who are planning and giving the resources. But it goes all the way down the chain, and everybody's got to play their part if we're to have any hope of holding any kind of events. So things can't be normal. So we need to stop trying to immediately get back to normal and just accept that we have to operate in these different ways for now, and just not try to be normal about it.
So before we move on to the next question, I just want to quickly remind anyone who does have comments or questions to please put them in, and we'll go through them at the end.
And I agree with that normal comment. I think people are just trying to get back to normal life, and we should really be adapting and moving on and finding ways around the new ways rather than trying to fight that.
Yeah.
So what is your view personally on the effect of the industry?
Well, one word really: brutal. Absolutely brutal. Like I said, I'm not going to stray into politics because we're just sticking to it, and we could talk about that all day, but that's not, there's a financial impact, straight away. Loss of revenue for everybody at all levels. It's completely drained everyone's reserves of any kind. Some people have just hunkered down. A number of companies have gone bust. Another number of venues have had to close. The larger firms have probably been worse hit because they're carrying so many staff and they're relying upon that constant work that they usually do have to maintain that size. Also, another thing is invariably in these huge firms, a lot of equipment will be on lease terms. So, all of a sudden, if that equipment that was going to be working for the next 2 years, almost guaranteed, isn't anymore, those lease obligations still count for a lot of firms. So that's really put a lot of financial pressure on things. Venues closing. I mean, how could a venue stay open when it's not allowed to let people in? So that's it's clearly damaging. I'm here in Manchester. We've seen 2 venues go that way, although it does look like there's a rebuyer for a couple, but they're just closing all over the place. Then we could talk about any fees and guarantees, and I'm not just talking about now. I mean, all through into next year, fees for artists are not going to be anywhere near those kind of fever pitch levels they were before lockdown. Guarantees, will work completely different. So the promoters will essentially want to share the risk of things with artists and performers for a medium term amount of time until all the uncertainty is over. And in a way, that's understandable because there's so many factors that even the promoter cannot control. It's not a matter of money anymore. They're just factors that could happen. Those events could be cancelled without any real comeback or reason or action that could be taken to stop it. And if we think about smaller tours, sometimes labels will put small tours out as promo tours. They would essentially run a loss, or they'd just about break even, and they were always in lieu of marketing that was coming up, or potential record sales, or press opportunities, PR opportunities. You can definitely see in the more medium term that those kind of things would be much less likely to happen. It will only be things that have got a surefire way of recovering some money back in before we see those. So that's clearly going to have a damaging effect. If we talk about employment, obviously the furlough schemes help some people, but even that's starting to hit home, and jury's out on that. But consider how many people in the industry is a freelancer, including musicians. People like that have been especially left out. So obviously that's having a thing. And then if we think about the people coming into the industry, graduates, people trying to make their first moves in the industry, now they've got nowhere to go into. No one's going to be taking on placements into this next year. I teach a group of university students, first years every year on an event management course, and those people going into what would be normally their placement years, which is invaluable experience for that route into the industry. So that's all delayed for a year. So that's creating a backlog. And we can talk about the mental impact. People have lost their identity. They feel completely worthless. They love what they did, and now they can't do it. And everyone here tonight, it's okay that you feel like that. And I reckon most people in this call probably do. And that is completely understandable why that is that way. My own partner is in that exact position, totally freelance. She's been doing anything to get by, as stopgap measures. One effect that's had that's not the most terrible is the creation of virtual and the use of virtual tech that was well on its way anyway has been massively accelerated, as has working from home and doing virtual meetings, which means a lot less running around for some of us, which is a little tiny silver lining. And, I think everyone's adapted to that new way of working, which bodes well for the future. Another thing is, I was talking about the bigger firms going bust, especially, and how many staff they carry, but there may be a silver lining there to buy the smaller firms, more independently owned companies, a bit of a chance of recovery when demand does start up again. You can always imagine these big firms will get reinvested in, but for now there might just be some sort of respite for the smaller suppliers that usually have to bid low in order to beat these big companies. So if everything here that I'm talking about now just makes this, and everything that's happened this year just makes you feel like the industry's really too fickle, and I think I got some comments on the questionnaire that it's like, it just makes me want to not go through this industry and not go into this industry. Well, the industry's always been fickle. It really is. The nature of events, especially, it's always been very fickle. That's why we have this strong freelancer culture, because it is quite transient. People do come and go all the time for different reasons, but it's usually not this extreme. But we can probably see many people leaving the industry, especially if they've got transferable skills. It will create a skills vacuum, but we could argue that that's a positive or a negative. probably split between the people in this call. The younger people out there, if there's a skills vacuum, it gives them something to train up into. But it might be a bit depressing for people that are considering leaving the industry that they love after 20, 30, 40 years in some cases.
Definitely. So taking it back to mental health, like you mentioned, the survey we sent out, we had a lot of replies saying that people just felt a bit fed up, they had low self-esteem, they felt like they had no support within the workplace. So I'd like to just talk a bit more about mental health in the industry and where they come to support.
Yeah, totally. So, this problem isn't a COVID-19 problem only. It existed before. And I was as active around mental health before, if not more so, because I was seeing more people. But obviously, this has all amplified it for some people. So I advocate at industry level to improve conditions and awareness, but I also mostly am just operating on a personal level to try and just help people around me through 2020. And I'm sure we're going to have people who just relate to all these different categories that I talk about now. So anxiety. So I've had I had personal bout of anxiety this summertime. I've had friends with extreme physical symptoms. One particular colleague, she ended up hospitalised because her anxiety over the uncertainty over her job was so severe. And also, in more general times, bullying, fatigue, things like that can also just cause anxiety in people. There's been a lot of increased depression in people this year. So people always suffer it in waves if they have that condition, but often it's hidden, and now people are hidden as well. It's also really common for people to get depressed when they go home from tour and when they're away from extended work families that they become very close to. And 2020 has been like one big period where there's no tour for people, and that's usually when they're at the lowest. So that's really understandable that people feel that way too. A lot of people in our industry suffer from bipolar disorder. I think it must be a link to creative people. I just know so many people that are creative but also bipolar. Again, that can be really hidden. It can display itself in a whole different ways. It might not seem obvious to people. And again, a year like this year really would just set people off into those pendulums. And then we're talking about panic attacks, which if you've ever had a panic attack or been with somebody, you'll know is really scary. I got to a colleague and really good friend this summer to find him on the floor, and it was like he was having an epileptic fix. His panic attack was that bad. And it's just through his feelings of worthlessness and just not knowing what's going on and just getting himself into a state. And then over time, it all built up and panic attacks. Next one we'll talk about is addiction, which is a huge issue. And I've been in the industry 20 years, and I must say things have, especially in the last 5-10 years, have improved significantly with addiction awareness and support, but it's still very, very prevalent. This year especially, I talk to Joanne Croxford at Music Support quite regularly. She's saying to me that people are just turning back to alcohol, turning back to their drug addictions. Alcohol's the most common, but cocaine addiction still in the music industry is right there, and especially in those periods off tour where all your other mates aren't there. So imagine this year when you're suddenly on your own, how things could take a turn for the worse. But yeah, a huge increase in reports. And then, not particularly just this year, but in the music industry generally, suicide has been basically the pinnacle of these other conditions for some people in the industry. There's been a number of cases over the past few years of, just people you've known or, friends. One person in particular who I brought into the industry, and he worked for me when he first started in the industry, and then mid-20s to have committed suicide as a result of his depression state. It was really upsetting. So it's, you know, it's about creating that awareness that these things exist in the industry. But, you know, they're really serious. But let's talk about how we can protect ourselves from that and protect those people around us, you know, because they're really dark periods. And I hope that lots of people did relate to some of those feelings I was describing that are all really valid this year. But awareness is really key. If you've got one of those conditions, you know all too well what I was talking about. But for a lot of people, when I start talking into the, you know, ins and outs, or even just talking comfortably about mental health conditions, they're still pretty unaware of what all these things are and literally how they can affect people. And putting the two and two together and spotting people in the workplace, especially that may be suffering, you know. And if you aren't aware and you need awareness, get training. You know, there's so many resources out there now. What I would advocate anybody to do is to undertake mental health first aider course. It's a brilliant course, and you'll feel like you've got a little bit of tools to help people out and to maybe signpost them in the right direction and to really spot the signs. So really just educate yourself. But also, I mentioned quite a few things that really wouldn't be that obvious to if you're just in a band with someone, a colleague of someone, just working with them. Some of these things aren't obvious. So always consider your words and your actions. That's a top tip from someone that's put his foot in it more than once before. The other thing we do is, as well, some safety advisors do now, is we create stress risk assessments as part of business documentation. So I do it for a few tours now. Chemical Brothers was one of the first tours to really embrace a stress risk assessment, where I went through it with and we identified all the different mental health stressors that they, as a tour, were putting on their crew. And then we looked at what they had in place to sort of mitigate those stressors. There is some responsibilities or guidance from the HSE in the first aid regulations. So there's already some guidance there that says, you know, you've got to consider mental health. But then actually, probably in the next year, there's something else coming out called the psychosocial factors. And the consultation for that's just finished. And what that will do is that it'll mean that employers of all kinds have a legal duty to make sure that things at work aren't contributing to mental health distress. So that'll be a really key point in the next year for mental health in the industry.
I think, like, personally, there has been some positive that had not come out of COVID, obviously, but the whole adapting and the change of life.
Family.
Yeah. Well, I also think that the industry has massively come together, and personally, it's made me quite proud to be part of an industry like that. What positives do you think the industry could take from 2020?
Well, just seeing events like this happen and all the other things that have been happening, the sense of community around music, concert industry and events more generally, it's literally never been as strong as it is now. So, you know, you probably all know about the We Make Events protests that happened recently, and there's more happening soon. Like, I dread to think how big they're going to be because they're all linking up this time. Now, those protests are for really sad reasons. They're completely understandable why people have chosen to arrange these things. An old colleague, Steve of mine, is part of the organising committee of that, which is great. But what it's done is given people that feeling of solidarity, which, you know, nobody else could give them right now. And we've come together to do that, and that's actually really priceless for a lot of people. Speak to anybody that went there that day in Manchester. You know, it really made a difference to them. Sharing of information has ramped up massively. You know, you've basically got a lot of people who are usually commercial rivals, although they might not hate each other. We're now all actively sharing things for the greater good. That's never really happened to this level before. Industry level groups coming together. What it's given us is an opportunity to upskill, to raise your competence, like I said, to raise your awareness, to educate yourself. You know, people are usually really busier now, putting training courses on, spending time developing others, making new training opportunities at all levels in the industry. So that's a real positive, because we actually don't usually have the time to develop those properly. The industry working groups have come together like never before. You know, the PSA tour production group that produced that guidelines. You know, those people, it's nearly 50 of the top touring production managers that control most of the big tours are involved in that group. To get those people together in any other time would be impossible. You know, people like that and a lot of other groups are now tackling issues such as sustainability, which definitely already had its wheels on the track before COVID, but now there's been a real switch onto that, because to cut a long story short, people think that in the end that might feed into getting things done more economically. So we finally found an economic driver for sustainability now that technology is really coming into its own for sustainability. And a number of artists were already looking at how to reduce carbon footprints by 30 to 40% per tour. So there's a big drive on that at the minute, and there's a lot of people taking up sustainability. Power generation and transportation is the real technologies to really get to a point that we can use, and then that'll be the catalyst for really much greener shows. There's a lot of conversations about welfare. I mean, the fact we're doing this talk right now and getting these things out there for people, and really we want to be focusing on how, you know, people who do tours and festivals and music and all those kind of events, you know, how they're treated. How long do they work? We're all sat now with nothing to do, wondering how we did 20-hour days for, you know, weeks at a time. Is there enough team members for days off? You know, do we have activities that keep people away from those unhelpful addictions? Is there care after tours? You know, so we are looking at maybe getting a tour managers and promoters charter together to put basic standards of welfare in place. We've mentioned mental health, but obviously everyone's a lot more active on that now. There's a lot of people training up during the lockdown period, so that's really positive. As is diversity in the music touring production world is not the best at all. There's a long way to go on gender diversity and race diversity, ethnic diversity. So there's a lot of people there now looking at how we improve that, and how we introduce a wider base of more diverse and talented people into the industry and support that, and really just trying to raise awareness in the old middle class white guy brigade that are still really prevalent in the industry. We've also been talking a lot about bullying and general culture. So, you know, there's a lot of positive steps going forward about that. And really coming out and talking openly about abuses of power, lowest common denominator, you know, welfare abuses, where the lowest paid are made to work the longest hours and have the least welfare, and things like that. And one of the other main positives is, after all this, there will be, mark my words, a golden period of high demand, and it'll last for, you know, a couple of years, probably 3 years, with really elevated levels of demand, where people just, you know, so relieved to get back to doing what they enjoy doing, and everybody will have essentially gone a year without. As I said, some people are going to leave the industry and use their transferable skills. But, however, if you're in a position where you're just thinking of coming into this industry now, there's a real opportunity for you to get real experience and fill that skills vacuum that I mentioned. And then I just mentioned some, you know, really good support groups that are out there, again, that people have set up. You know, good acquaintance of mine, Susie Green, she has this brilliant group called the Back Lounge that's been a really good, invaluable source to a lot of people. I mentioned Music Support, the Music Support charity. If you're not aware of Music Support, get on the Music Support's website and check that out. and that they're providing direct assistance to people every day during lockdown. There's also a charity through the PSA called Stagehand Charity, and that at the moment is making emergency payments to people to help them pay their bills. People from the music production industry that are really on hard times and struggling, and there's a lot of people doing fundraising, so take a look at that one. There's all sorts of other groups out there. Charlie, who I believe is on the call, is been doing a great group with students, a great amount of insight panels where he's been getting professionals together to talk to students. And I know the girls here are involved in things like DANC, which is the Disabled Artists Networking Community. All those things are real positives that have gone into overdrive in this time. So, just consider if you can support any of those positive outlets for, just helping us all to get by, really.
Definitely, that's really useful, because a lot of the responses from the survey were just really struggling at where else they could get support. They only really knew the Samaritans or asking friends and family. So at least now we can have a confident platform.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll be good support for them.
We'll write them out and share them on social media as well.
Yeah, definitely. So shall we see if we've got any questions from the audience? If anyone's got any questions, please just pop them in the comment box. Got one here. What would you tell artists or event industry workers on preparing for future events?
Wait 6 months and it'll all be over.
6 months, that's kind of promising, I was thinking it would be like 6 years.
All the smart money's on from April next year, and I think the government backed that up today.
Thanks, I like that.
Yeah, it's a positive answer, kind of actually wanted.
Yeah. So do you think the industry will ever be the same?
I actually think we, given the type and amount of people that are affecting real actionable change right now, I think we'll see a vast improvement. But like I've said, the medium term is uncertain, and there will be a recovery period, but there will be a golden period of demand, undoubtedly. So, it'll be very different, probably a lot of it for the better. Some of us might not think that entirely, but generally very much recovered, and probably a bit more set up for the next sort of 10 to 15 years technology-wise.
What are your views on virtual events?
I think virtual events have served a purpose. What they've done is they've kept some people working, and they found a price point for, certainly for music performances. Some people have enjoyed them, and that's fine. If one big artist does a virtual stream, that's probably 30 people. I know somebody who was doing Ellie Goulding, and because she's the planner, that was a month's work for somebody. So it's all helped in some way. That's probably paid somebody's mortgage for a couple of months, So yeah, all good. It keeps the industry ticking over, and the non-paid virtual events that have been happening, I think they've kept us all sane. Just having a bit of a community to go to.
Got any more? No? Oh. What do you think the future of live music events will look like?
More sustainable. I think we'll move to touring less equipment around, and there'll be a more universal nature of things that can be done in venues, which traditionally used to happen, but I think we'll move back to that. And especially with bigger shows, large scale, big bands, now the optics of splurging lots of money and carbon are not as good, and they won't ever be as good again. So there'll be a lot more reusable stage sets, a lot more power friendly technology, green generation units, and at a smaller level, I think we'll probably see an increase in, as we were doing, the trend towards more local based live music will maintain, as well as that large format arena thing that we're also used to now. But watch out for esports and live music and virtual all blended. I think that will be something that will come through quite strongly, you know, because esports is carrying on even now, to be honest.
We've got any more questions? Let's have a look. I've got one more question, really. So, do you know the social distancing events that have been putting on, like the social distance festival? They've been stopped now, haven't they? But what was your opinions on them? Do you think they were safe? Do you think it was a good idea? Because we were a bit unsure on if to go or not, weren't we? Like, we saw the whole idea, it was good to get people back together again, but then actually attending was a bit uneasier. It's good to get your views on that.
Yeah, well, I think, like I said before, there's if we're talking about a music event, you know, obviously the standout one is what the guys at Engine Number 4 have done up in Newcastle. You know, clearly they've done a really good job, but there was a lot that tried that didn't happen, or a lot that looked at it and couldn't make it work figures wise. You know, these people have done a great job. And they've done it for the right reasons, which is why they've got ahead. Now, if you went into one of these situations trying to make money like you did before, then it's not really going to work out. If you're trying to get us down a path of progress and make it work and give a load of people the work in the meantime, and you know, really show that it could be done, then yeah, they're to be massively commended for doing it for that reason. And you know, there's been a lot of the drive-in cinema events that have had limited success, a variety of success, let's say. Some have done very well, others haven't. If you look over to America, where they've got the weather for this kind of thing, then the Newcastle sort of style concert could probably carry on now in the coming months over there. So it'd be interesting to see some of the things coming out over there. When we're talking about moving into venues, the future is really uncertain at the minute, and we just need to ride it out and see what happens. There will obviously be some opportunities to hold socially distanced events, but it's definitely a challenging market to achieve social distancing and indoors, and it be entertaining and relaxing for people.
I think one of the things we really liked about the social distance events is that they're a lot more accessible now, especially for people with disabilities. So it's like the platforms that we've attended events and we've been on, you know, like the accessible platforms. So it's kind of similar to that, which I like.
Also, for people with anxiety, it's not as crowded, they can enjoy it kind of thing.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely got some benefits if they adapt some of the new guidelines.
Yeah, we've got to see different ways we could do things now, haven't we? So
yeah,
it's quite exciting.
Interesting to see where it's going to go, really.
Yeah.
Have we got any more questions? Anyone got any more questions? Please just pop them in the comment box. But thank you so much for that, Martin. That was really insightful and informative. We learned a lot about the whole industry as a whole, and especially like touching on mental health is great.
Yeah, I think it made a lot of things clever.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Thanks for listening, everyone, as well. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, and we'll pop your details on if that's okay after the show, and then
put my contact details down. If anyone wants to email me about anything that I've spoken about tonight, feel free. I'm always available to answer any questions or anything.
That's great.
Thank you so much. See you later.
Bye.
And that's a wrap. It is. Thank you everyone for coming along and watching our virtual event. Thank you for all our guest speakers. Thank you to the Mardlers for their entertainment, and thank you to the incredible team for doing all the backstage, and thanks to Mum really because she's been an angel today.
Yeah, we ran around after us while we were panicking.
Out. And the video will be uploaded later on.
Yeah, do you remember to check out social media for our launch of our website and any other updates?
And thanks to you.
And thanks to you.
Thank you. Bye guys.